All right, we'll get started with our second phase here, second half, with the men's basketball team, our focus, and we're joined by the Cougars head men's basketball coach. Please welcome Brian Baroni. Coach, we'll look a little bit back at last week, talk about a couple of games there. Of course, it's our Coaches Show presented by Urban Chestnut Brewing here at Global Brew. We're glad to be here. We're glad to have Urban Chestnut Brewing Company as a big partner for us here for SIUE Athletics. Coach, so the week started with Missouri Baptist here at First Community Arena, and you and I have a chance to talk about this a lot, but I think sometimes people will look and they'll kind of wonder, why is there a non-Division I coming in? What is the benefit there? There's actually a really great benefit, and I know that part of what you're doing, at least part of what you're doing this year, is kind of stacking opponents based on style of play.
Yeah, absolutely. When you put your schedule together, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Like Detroit this year was 4 years ago is what we were trying to schedule it. And when you're trying to stack your schedule around a lot of variables, you want to try to stay consistent in style of play, in my opinion. So, early in the season, we had similar teams from a North Park, a Dayton, and Missouri were very similar in their style of play. So your game prep in short turnarounds, and you kind of get used to a particular type of scouting. Missouri Baptist was very similar, in the stretch that we were just in as well with a Detroit, in a Troy, and some of the schemes that they ran, and in the cutting and things like that. And they're well coached, local, and presented a challenge that we were really good, especially in that first half.
And even so, this game against Missouri Baptist, even extending back to the Detroit game, it was very much, again, a team effort. It was balanced. Both games were extremely balanced from an SIUE standpoint.
Yeah, that's the kind of team that we have. When we are all in, all together, moving the ball, everyone, statistically, it comes through. Success, from a winning and losing standpoint, that's our team when we're moving the ball. And, they take away one guy with two guys, that means somebody else is open, and with our cutting, our passing, and things like that. And I thought, those games in particular, we were very willing to, kind of move the ball, move our bodies as well, and build off one another's energy.
20 assists in that game on 29 made baskets, so certainly moving the ball there. But again, just as I look, you get 8 assists from Rayshon Taylor to go with 24 points from Shamar Wright. You just get it from a lot of different 4 blocks from Arnie Sakanis that night. So kind of the same things we were talking about with Coach Sam. It's not always just the scoring. It's everything else that's going into that as well. And you were getting a lot of production from a lot of spots.
Yeah, in that game in particular, I was doing different lineups at one point when we got to when we were in a nice little flow and kind of disrupted our flow a little bit. Not necessarily on purpose to mess us up, but just to see how we would react in different lineups and guys getting different opportunities that behind the scenes or really on a day-to-day in practice are really working their tails off for us. And whether it's Arnie getting 4 assists or other guys getting a certain amount of deflections that's leading to an assist that leads to a basket, those are the type of things that I'll look at the basic stat sheet right after the game, but after the game and the breakdown, we look at all the other things that we stat in terms of like blow-bys, box-outs, extra passes, deflections, dominoes, all those type of things are important to us.
So let's take a look at the rest of the week, which was the game at Troy on Friday night. Obviously, this one didn't go the way that you would have liked. It was a little bit surprising to me as I watched the game. It didn't feel like what I had seen the rest of the year from this team.
Yeah, you look at the assists alone. I think we ended up with 3, so you're going from 20 to 3. And it's not necessarily we weren't wanting or willing to pass the ball. You have to make the shot on the other end as well. That's part of an assist. And you have to get organized prior to the pass, prior to the shot offensively. And I thought that game, we got off to a poor start early. It's never like lack of care with these guys. We just we didn't get off to the start that we needed to get off. And they're a really good team. That's why we scheduled them a year ago. And we were able to get the win here at our place last year. And then, unfortunately, we didn't have the success we wanted to down this year. But I thought, I talked to the guys, this isn't something that's going to, it doesn't define who we are. It just gives us more information right now of what we know about ourselves. So right now we come away from this game and we have proof in the pudding. When the ball moves, when we're strong with the ball, when we finish at the basket, we take the right shots, defensively get back in transition, we have each other's back in gap help and all those type of things. It's very informative for us to understand that this is how we win the games. And when you don't do it, you can learn just as well. Now, I'd rather learn after a win. There's no doubt about that, and that's kind of the goal. But it was a great trip from that regard, because we've had two pretty aggressive practices the last couple days in getting ready for this next game.
You have a veteran team for the most part. A good core of this team is veterans. How much does that help you? You made similar statements after the South Alabama game, right? It's not necessarily, yes, we lost the game, but we know what we did. We know what we need to do. How much do the veterans drive that conversation after the game?
Well, I think there was a lot of talk. Lamar Wright was one guy that really stepped up in regards to just kind of ownership. Just like, hey, this is what, we just lost, and by, however many points it was, and we didn't do what we are here to do. I think that's a luxury to have on this team. I think that the frustration gets even higher quicker, though, because you have a bunch of guys that know what we are capable of, know what they are individually capable of, and when we don't achieve it, it gets even more frustrated, because you don't have that excuse is probably not the right word, but I'm not smart enough to know another word to kind of fall back on, well, this is the first time we've done that. So our emotions and our frustration can go a little higher quicker. But again, when you look at it from a coach's perspective, that level of care is ultimately the most important thing. And then you got to adjust and you got to get through it. It's a long season. There's going to be ups and downs. There's no doubt about that. And hopefully, coming up here, we get a little bit more of an up.
You mentioned, some aggressive practices the last couple of days. Is that a situation where after a game like that, the guys are just ready to get back out there and prove that that's not who they are?
Oh yeah, they're fired up. They wanted to be there right after the bus, I'm sure. Yeah, we landed and they were like, "Hey, coach, let's go practice, please." I think I actually don't like. We actually had a day off right after because we had a long stretch, and it was in a short amount of times. We hadn't had a day off necessarily in like a 6-day period. So usually I try going 2 days on or 3 days on and a day off. So we took the day off. And the one thing after a loss or when you don't play great, having the practice the next day is the best thing.
Right. Because
you can kind of put it to bed. So we sat on that for about 36 to 42 hours or so. Got back on the court after coach's win or coach's game the other day. I was at the win. I'm all spinning around the win.
Yes,
Sunday,
correct.
which was just the other day.
Yesterday.
Okay, yesterday. So we got back to the court. Obviously, I've been thinking about it a little bit differently. I don't even know my days. And got on the court right afterwards and got after it and kind of got to, we were able to, really focus on some of the things that, not necessarily that we didn't do well or do well, just something the things that we need to do in order to have the success we look forward to having.
Coach, we appreciate segment number 1 here. We'll get into next week coming up in our last segment, but we'll let you take a little break and we'll bring up our student athlete here. We're gonna talk to Lamar Wright coming up here, and I appreciate you joining us for this first segment.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.
There's the Cougars head coach, Brian Baroni, and we'll come right back. All right, back for segment number 2 here with our Cougar Coaches Show at Global Brew, and I am glad to be joined here at the other mic by our 5th-year senior, Lamar Wright. Thanks so much for coming out. Appreciate it.
Of course.
So if you don't know, Lamar is originally from Memphis, spent some time in California, came to SIUE via Link Year Prep down in Branson. Obviously came here with your brother, your twin brother, Shamar. But as I said, this being year number 5 here, right at the very beginning of Coach Baroni taking over as head coach, I imagine that is pretty daunting when a coach comes and says, no, really, we're going to do some big things here. You've got to trust me. And that's, I know, a word that Coach uses a lot. How much trust was there, for you and for Shamar to kind of make that leap?
One of the first things that really grabbed me about SIUE was the fact that Coach Brony took that chance on me and Shamar throughout our whole recruitment as in high school. One of the big things was for us that we wanted to be together, and he was the first one to take that chance, so we rode with him.
That is difficult, I imagine, that, trying to make that move not just as one person, but, together. So same thing, I imagine, kind of after last year, after doing your 4 years. I know that you at least explored the idea of going into the portal. Both of you have decided to come back. What goes into a decision to come back for that 5th year?
I think a big part of that was just our relationship with Coach Brony, not only, but also our teammates that were still here, and just the fact that we felt like we didn't finish what we wanted to do here. There's still more to be done.
That's a really good point. And obviously you've seen some incredible growth in the time that you've been here. What do you attribute that to? What do you think has kind of helped propel this team, through the success you've had the last couple of years, specifically into last year?
I think the main thing that really brings us together, I think, is just us getting to know each other more. Last year some of our guys were new, a lot of guys were young. Rayshawn coming in as a freshman, and then Polo coming in his first year at D1. I think that just over the year and over the course of these last couple of years, that we've been able to come together as a team and learn each other more and play to each other's strengths.
When you think about it, and you come on the floor, the 5 starters that are essentially have been the regulars, yourself and Shamar, with Rayshawn, Polo, and Terrence, that's a lot of experience. And like you said, even if it's not necessarily a ton of years, there's still a lot of experience in that core group you guys have got.
Yes, exactly. Like, for example, some of our big games last year, the SIUE conference tournaments, and just all the tournaments we've had throughout the years, winning the tournament last year, even the tournament we had this year was a big learning experience for our group. I think that over the course of the years that a lot of the games and just the time together in practices and off the court, it all correlates.
Lamar Wright joining us here, 5th-year senior. So when it's all said and done, the top of the all-time games played list at SIUE is going to say Shamar Wright and Lamar Wright, because in about 3 games, you're going to surpass Brandon Jackson into that number 2 spot. Shamar is cemented in that number 1 spot. You're also going to be out on the career list as far as blocks are concerned. How important is that, or how much does that mean to you that you're going to have your names on the record book here at SIUE?
I think I'm just grateful to be on there. It's not something that I thought about when I first came to SIUE, but just over the course of us just playing and trying to give our all to the team, it's glad that your name will be remembered here.
And I think it's probably pretty cool, I would imagine. And I didn't even mention scoring, because you're going to be among the top scorers. Shamar right now is already climbing into the top 5, but you're going to be up there as well. And so I imagine it's gratifying that it's not just you, but it's also your brother.
Yes, it makes it 10 times better.
So what are you looking forward to as we get into, as we finish out non-conference play and you get into conference play again? What are kind of some of the things that are maybe, on the horizon, or you look forward to in this last year for you?
I just take it day by day. I try to enjoy the moment. Just coming into the realization this is my last year, it really does hit home. It hits my heart. But like I said, I like to take it day by day and just approach every day the best way I can.
So we'll go the other way then. As you look back on what is 4+ years, going to be 5 years, what's a favorite spot maybe that you've played in?
Of course, the SIUE Arena. Coming up with our new upgrades, it's been very nice to see where we started and now where we are now. I always enjoy that arena, and honestly, I'll just have to say SIUE's arena.
There's got to be some spots. What about, something like the SLU win last year's got to ring true? Actually,
our game in Milwaukee, when we played on the NBA Arena, that was one of the best games against Marquette, I believe. Mm-hmm. That was one of the best courts I think I played on. It was just really cool to play in that NBA Arena.
Opening the season right there, right after the NBA, right after they won the NBA championship.
Yes, exactly, right after the championship, yeah.
Pretty cool. That was the start of, was that last season? 2 seasons ago now?
Yeah, I think it was 2 seasons ago.
At Marquette. So your outlook now, you've been through 4 OVC seasons. You know what the OVC is about. You know what that Thursday, Saturday grind is like. What are your expectations getting into the conference season?
You know it's going to be hard. You know there's going to be good scouts, but this year I'm looking forward to winning it, going all for it.
When you say there's going to be good scouts, right? Because this is what I always think about when it comes to the conference, that it's not just, as you're looking at tape of, say, Southeast Missouri, and Southeast Missouri is playing Tennessee Tech, it's almost as if you're getting 2 scouts right there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so every team's getting the same. You know each other so well. What does it take, or what is that one thing that can put you over the top in a conference game?
I really feel like it's just your togetherness as a team. I think that the more your team clicks, the more your team bonds, the better chances you have.
And so, that said, this feels like this veteran team is poised for a good run in the OVC.
Yes, we are. We're ready this year. We're going to be coming for it.
Lamar, thanks, man. I appreciate you checking in. It's been great over the last 4+ years, and I look forward to a really good OVC season.
Thank you.
That's Lamar Wright, our 5th-year senior, with us here on our Coaches Show. Thanks very much. We're glad to have Lamar. We'll have one more segment coming up. We'll have Coach Baroni coming back for just a bit right after this. All right, final segment here of our Coaches Show at Global Brew in Edwardsville. We're going to be here for fairly often coming up in the conference season. We've got one more show to do in December. That'll be next Monday on the 11th, and then we'll be back for 3 shows in January, 3 shows in February, and we're thankful to Urban Chestnut Brewing Company for being the presenting sponsor. And of course, you can pick up those SIUE branded Zwickle cans. They're starting to make their way out there. You'll see them out and about. Certainly you'll see them here at Global Brew, but you'll see them out and about at other establishments, and grocery stores and gas stations are going to start carrying them, so you can take your Cougar pride with you wherever you are going. So one final segment, we're joined again by the Cougars head men's basketball coach Brian Baroni. And Coach, we'll look ahead to what you've got upcoming this week. Because before you get into the finals break, you've got a tough week ahead of you here.
Yeah.
Green Bay coming to town on Wednesday. We'll start there, a program out of the Horizon League, a program that obviously you have some history with. Our athletic director, Andrew Gavin, has some history with. So what do you expect? What are you looking forward to from Green Bay?
They're a good team. They just went and had Fort Wayne, who's 8-1. They almost beat them at their place, and then they beat one of the Horizon League favorites in Milwaukee the other day. So they've really they have a new coaching staff. Really turned the program in a positive direction over the start of the season. All their games have been very close. Extremely good point guard with a lot of pieces around him that really know their role and are accepting it. So they're going to grind it out. They're going to move the ball. They're going to share the ball. They're going to defend and try to control the game in terms of possessions and things like that.
We were talking about coming off the loss against Troy, what the practice was like, that kind of thing. And I asked Coach Sam the same kind of question. How do you balance that recovery rest piece with we still have to prepare for an opponent coming up in a couple of days? What's the ideal number of days between games at this point?
It's that's a good question. I mean, realistically, there's times where you get a couple wins and you want to just keep on playing potentially, but then there's so many ways you can look at it, whether it's injuries or your travel schedule and things like that. When we put this together, we knew we were going to have a long travel day back on Saturday. We had to stay overnight at Troy because they kept changing the date and the time because of football within the contract. So those are the things that people don't necessarily know about. So then when you are trying to factor in scheduling a game a few months out, you're going to play. I think we play on Wednesday, so originally it was going to be a Tuesday, and so I think you usually want about a 2 to 3 day window would be ideal. Right now I wish we were playing tonight because I wanted to get right back.
All of that energy that they've shot.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get ready to roll. But I think at the end of the day, what you have to do is you have to be consistent in your approach. You can't get too high or too low in anything that you do. So if you're frustrated and you go out there and you want to, practice a particular type of way just to make yourself feel good, for lack of a better term, just go yell. That's not ideal necessarily if it's not productive to what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that that's kind of has to be your approach this time of year. You have to stay consistent in what you're trying to accomplish as a team on a daily basis of just simply getting better. As long as you're getting better every day and building up towards the end of the season, hopefully you're going to have the success that you set out to have.
Back to Green Bay, what do you have to do specifically, or who can step up and impact this game Wednesday against Green Bay?
I think if we score one more point, we'll win for sure. I'm pretty sure that's
excellent analysis.
So I would love to do that, if at least. They have a guy, Noah Reynolds, transfer from Wyoming. He's from actually Illinois. He's a very good point guard, averaging about 17 points, probably 6 or 6.5 assists, a little less than around 3 turnovers, and around 5 or 6 rebounds as well. So he's kind of the head of the snake. They have a variety of guys. They have a pick and pop big. They have some guards some wings that can slash. They're a dynamic team in terms of their role, and they all have a particular role. And their most dynamic player, their premier player, would be Noah Reynolds. Is a good point guard.
So that is Wednesday night at First Community Arena. That's a 7 o'clock start against Green Bay. Then you'll go on the road to face Ball State. Frankly, it's a program that we haven't seen in probably 10 years at SIUE. I felt like we saw them a couple of times real early in the Division I days. So what do we know about this program from the Mid-American Conference?
Well, Mike Lewis is, he's the head coach there. I had a relationship with him. He was a player at Indiana. My time at Indiana, we kind of coexist in cross paths and got to know him over the years. He was actually at Eastern Illinois as well as a coach at one point years ago, and just through when you're out on the road recruiting, you're sitting there, you're trying to find games. He got the job a year ago. We decided to do a home and home. I think it's important to get quality opponent names too from the area that you've kind of hear in the Midwest. I think that's important. And that's what we've really had to focus on over these last couple of years as well. And they're a good team. I know they have a kind of a 4 or 5 man that's kind of their premier players, along with a combo scorer that's their other premier players. So I haven't watched them quite as much. My assistant Ryan Helthal has been talking to me a little bit about them, but I've been more focused on Green Bay. But I do know that Ball State is definitely a quality opponent as well.
So you mentioned we've talked a little bit about scheduling, and you said home and home. So Green Bay, for example, SIUE will go back to Green Bay in that home and home series. But the other side of that is, as SIUE goes to Ball State will come back to Edwardsville then as well. Yeah,
so like when home and homes. That's what in our little world. That's what you're talking about. You're always trying to balance it.
Yeah.
On our level, it's the Detroit game is a unique situation, but it's not necessarily unique. A lot of programs have a kind of a random thing like that, whether it's a game that had to be pushed off or you had to switch a year. So if you think about it, we scheduled a home and home with them 4 years ago. Yeah. And we just got them back, and fortunately it was nice, and we had a big win the other day against Detroit. So when you're scheduling, you're trying to balance out. I want to bring people into our First Community Arena. I want them to come in, and I want the community to be able to. It's a great community. We want to sit there and we want to play in front of them, and you want to bring a certain opponent in there. But there's dates that have to work out. There's scheduling in terms of, do they need road games? Do they need home games? It seems like everyone always needs a home game.
Right.
So this year we just kind of decided, well, let's go on the road and let's have a built-in home game next year at least.
So I want to get back to our guest, Lamar, who was with us in the second segment. And when you listen to Lamar talk about the trust that he feels like was extended to him and Shamar in taking that chance, coming here early, very beginning of your tenure, obviously here, but then obviously staying here after 4 years. What does that mean to you when you hear that from Lamar?
I mean, he said exactly what I told him to say. It was
Right.
great. I trust him.
Well coached.
I trust that he's very coachable. Now that was probably 3 years ago when I told him, so he just regurgitated it now.
So a good memory also.
He's already graduated, and he's working on his master's, and that is true, and I'm proud of him for that. But it makes you. I'm not going to lie. Like as a person, as a father, as a son, obviously as a coach, it just makes you proud of the foundation that people have laid before me that I've tried to emulate. That is kind of sticking to the core of our guys, core of our team. And I'm sure there's some days where he was like, man, I wish I didn't trust him quite as much because of what his approach today. But my family, we've been here with them as long as Shamar and Lamar, or those two guys in particular, have been with us from, as we always say, from Jump Street. Cece, my daughter Cecilia, is now 6 years old. They've seen her grow. Cece doesn't know anything other than because having Lamar and Shamar around, and like that kind of level of depth is puts it in perspective sometimes, and it's security. It's nice to have guys out there that I trust.
Right.
They talk about, Lamar said something about trust, but I trust them. Like I trust them wholeheartedly with really anything. And I go to bed at night with no worries. And I know I go to practice, and here's the best thing: their availability on a day-to-day basis has been there for 4 years and 9 games now. Well, Shamar 8 games. So for 4 years and 9 games. Maybe I'll sit him a couple more times, and Lamar will beat
catch
him.
up. That's right.
Maybe I got you, LA.
Catch up.
But that level of trust that I have in them is probably tenfold than what they have in what we're doing as a staff.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking time tonight. Again, we're going to be here next Monday. It's Mondays at Global Brew. You can join us starting at 5 o'clock. The show gets started about 6 o'clock. We're going to do it next Monday, December 11th. We're going to do it 3 times in January, 3 times in February. Thanks again to Global Brew. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, Urban Chestnut Brewing. Thanks everyone in the room as well for coming out. Coach Baroni, Coach Sam, both KK and Lamar, we really appreciate it. And that's our show again for this week.
Appreciate it.